Okay, so welcome to my podcast. About 3 days ago, I started thinking about this and then decided, why not? Let's go for it. Um, so here we go. My first official podcast episode of Just Effie, no edits. I'll basically will not be using any scripts. I might have a few notes and basically no fancy cuts, no B-roll. Maybe I might add a few B-roll if you're on the video podcast. But this is just me sharing my real-time journey through midlife. I am post-menopausal and my my glucose levels are a little bit higher I haven't been officially diagnosed with pre-diabetes, but that is something that I think is probably going to happen soon. But I'm doing all I can. A lot of what this podcast is going to talk about is like that journey in terms of trying to manage that and really prevent it and mitigate it from developing further into type 2 diabetes. And I'm also in the midst of all of this is I'm also building a business, trying out new tech, trying to get that stuff out to YouTube in my main channel. So not in the podcast. This podcast will be like this, really no edits at all. So I hope if this is something that uh, resonates with you and maybe something that you're also challenged with some health issues, but also trying to, maybe it's not necessarily you're building a business, but maybe, you're a working professional or trying to create a new business. That's a lot of things that we all have to juggle. And a lot of times, you know, how do we do it? I don't know. I don't have it all figured out. I'm using best practices and seeing what works and what doesn't. And that's what this channel is going to be about. And also sharing my journey on my health because I need some accountability and I feel like I need to talk to somebody about it. Other than doctors and people who are telling me the same thing, which is eat less, move more, whatever, right? But let's like really talk about like actionable things. What am I doing this week to see if I can move the needle away from prediabetes? So we'll see how that works. I want to be clear. I don't have it all figured out. I'm trying different things, reading different things, seeing if those types of things will work for me. So I'm also experimenting. But again, instead of waiting for the perfect plan or doing something so rigid that doesn't really work for my life, I'm just going to start sharing what I'm doing, what those things are, and maybe it'll work and maybe not. So let's get started. So let's talk about my health first. For years, I've been super mindful in minding my health. I used to work for a diabetes care company in digital health. So pretty well versed working in that industry. And actually, that's not one of the reasons I joined that company was not only for the career opportunities, but also because I had like a personal interest in diabetes. My family is like prone to type 2 diabetes. And my mom actually was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and then subsequently had breast cancer and eventually died, you know, 20 some years ago. And after really, back then, I mean, I was so busy. I had a new baby and, I would say kind of, my career was starting to build and grow and, wasn't really like focused on, diabetes, like, this thing that we have to avoid. And I mean, like I knew we had to avoid it, but it wasn't top of mind and I didn't really know that much about it. And over the years, and especially with the increased amount of information available on the internet, I became fully aware and just had so many resources to kind of really read and learn about it. And so became super, just interested in it, and not only professionally, but also personally. So I actually became a health coach. And one of the reasons was because I really want to help people navigate their health to, minimize and to kind of think about health in a different way and using different measurements as opposed to just looking at your scale and looking at a number. That number, I wanted people to kind of, and I wanted to also, shift my mindset into looking at my glucose levels. So that's, part of my journey. Um, let's see, I started tracking in different ways. I used to use a glucose monitor. So I would prick my finger, use a drop of blood to do that. I also have measured my ketones. So I've used the Keto Mojo. Then when companies started coming out with, one of the companies, I actually did a video about them, NutriSense. They were the first one I tried, but you could get a CGM without getting it from your doctor. And back then, my glucose levels were pretty good, like, average in the 70s. So really, in a great range, on the lower part of the normal range, for somebody who doesn't have diabetes. And I used that. It was great. It was like so eye-opening what food does, all kinds of food, not just, especially food that you think is like, was really okay, but wasn't. So did that as well. So I've been monitoring my glucose levels for many, many years. And I want to say 3 years ago, I had a hysterectomy and also one of my ovaries removed. So um, I'll get into that at a later episode. But one of the things that did was I think it was maybe a year and a few months, maybe I want to say 15 months after I tested again, and pretty much I was in postmenopause. And a year after that, man, all these changes started happening. Basically, the way that I was eating, how I was exercising just wasn't working anymore. Like I was feeling like more fat was building on to my midsection, which has always been a trouble, my trouble spot. But then now I'm like, man, I'm not even eating that much. And, like I wasn't overeating. I ate low carb. Um, but I was having a hard time getting to ketosis, and also just my glucose levels. My averages were like in the higher range. And what I noticed was in my last doctor's appointment was it was actually in the pre-diabetes range. So I have another appointment coming up that I'm gonna talk to my GP about that. So this has been top of mind for several months now, and one of the reasons why I'm starting this podcast. I want to share like this journey of like, how do we actively try to mitigate this? What are the different things you can do? I'm not looking to take medication, not that I have anything against that. I think if it works for some people, I'm not well versed in the science of using these new drugs that are out there. I want to see if I can do this and to see if I'm actually doing everything that I can. Uh, and that's going to be sort of like what the goal is here. Again, not against using medication. I think it can work for some people. I personally would like to try other things and to be really like intentional about it to see if I can make those changes myself before having to rely on other drugs. Of course, I'll be making this decision with conversations with my doctor. So just so you know, not a physician. I am just like you, just trying to navigate through all of this. But I'm also careful not to jump the gun and just, I have no strong opinion at the moment about, well, I don't want to say strong opinion, but I probably lean a little less to the like I'm kind of skeptical, right? Because I don't know enough about it. So let's leave it there. Um, the other thing is I've also so Stello is a continuous glucose monitor from Dexcom. It is their new one that just came out, I think, last year. That now you can go and purchase it on your own. And uh, it's actually, I'll put a link below, not affiliated with them in any way, but I like their little app. It's kind of simple, easy to follow, and it gives you a good idea of what your glucose levels are. Excuse me. And then let's see. So I'll be talking a lot about that. Right now, I'm just trying to stay within the range, which is from 70 to 140 um, milligrams per deciliter. So that is sort of like where I am. I tend to be in the 100 area. And so I'm managing it right now through eating lower carb, lots of vegetables, lots of protein, because I do know I need extra protein being postmenopausal and midlife. I also lift weights with a personal trainer twice a week, and and I walk every day. That was sort of like what I've been doing. The things that I'm changing this week and coming into the following week is I'm going to be trying to make sure that I increase my heart rate um, a little bit more. And I'm being very careful about, I'm not going to say I'm going to start running or so I used to do a lot of running, prolonged running, 5 miles, 6 miles. I haven't been doing that just because it's kind of tough on your knees and hips and my hips. Um, and so I kind of stopped doing it and just started walking. But maybe I think my goal for 2025 my health goal was to sweat more. And maybe what I meant to say was sweat more, but also get my heart rate elevated a little bit more. But I don't want to keep it up too high. So what I've been doing is sort of interval training. When I do go walking, I do spurts of sprinting or jogging. Kind of depends on like where I am but like this morning, I went for a nice walk and jog and sprint um, just for about 40 minutes and it got my heart rate up. And, so I'm trying to do that more often during the week, maybe like 3 times a week during my walks. And I do get out multiple times a day, at least twice a day for a walk. Sometimes the second walk is just after dinner, just to get some fresh air or get the rest of my steps in. So that's the other thing that I'm working on. And in terms of eating, well, I'm just trying to eat lower carbs, and no refined carbohydrates. So really, I'm not eating bread, although, there is an occasional pizza in there somewhere. If I go out to dinner, I really try to plan, like, what am I eating before and after, like, that day and then at the end of the day. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on, is just like keeping that up. Really, right now, it's the getting that extra heart rate increase during my walks is like my big thing to see how that helps in potentially lowering my glucose levels and potentially lowering my average. And I will also share my average, and I don't know if I can see what that is right now. So my average for the last, oh, okay. Let me just say, my average for the last 24 hours, according to my Stello app, which is right there, is 100 milligrams per deciliter. And, you know, because I just did this on the fly, I don't have all the numbers in terms of like 30 days ago. But actually, no. So the last 30 days, my average has been 106. I'm just going to say my weekly because I think I'm going to try and do this on a weekly basis. So my average the last 7 days as of today was 102. So, and I've been within range, at least in the last 7 days, 98% of the time, which is really good. I'm going to say that's not bad. Um, I've also been working on this for several weeks, so it's not like I just started 3 days ago. So just so you know, it does I've had weeks where it has been less than that. So my goal is really to get that average down, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And I'll share all the different things that I'm doing. Then on top of that, I have other things. I am also working. I am a independent consultant, so I have a few clients that I'm working with. And on top of that, I'm creating a channel and have some other clients for tech coaching that I am helping build their businesses and run some of their um, email automations and things like that. So this is something that, I'm juggling. We're all juggling so many different things in our lives. And so, let's try little things to get healthy. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's, you know, this is life, right? I'm lucky that I don't have uh, little ones running around me. My son is grown up and lives in the city and is adulting himself. So I don't have to spend a lot of time taking care of him. My husband doesn't need taking care of either. He's pretty independent as well. Um, and basically, that's where I am. These are some things I know that, and those are the things that I know about what I'm doing. There's a few things I'm also kind of researching, and I'll share those things with you. But if you're also figuring out your health, your life, habits, or building a business or your professional career for productivity, make sure to tune in every week because this is what I'll be sharing. And I'm hoping to do a little bit deeper dive into some of my numbers and maybe I'll talk about a little bit more about glucose monitoring because those are things that I'm pretty familiar with. And if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to hit subscribe and don't miss the next episode. And I'd also love to hear from you. So, what's something that you're trying to do and trying to figure out in your health and or life and business and professional life? Make sure to drop a comment below. Please let me know. And yeah, let's tackle this together. And I'm just Effie with no edits, and I will see you in the next one.